for someday? Ready to finally start living your best life right now?
You're in the right place. I'm David.
And I'm Wendy.
And this is the David and Wendy Podcast. We're your life coaches here to move you from the excuses to action.
From mastering your mindset to finding real joy, we're keeping it real, raw, and maybe just a little ridiculous.
Let's get into it, Wendy.
Let's go, David.
Welcome back to the David and Wendy Podcast. Today's episode is called Careful How You Wish for Something.
Ian's wondering if David just misspoke. Well, we've all heard of careful what you wish for. So you may be thinking, what is meant by careful how you wish for something? I'm sure many of us have stated the obvious things or situations of what we do not want. Well, David's going to elaborate on what is meant by the how we wish for things.
Okay, so as we've been saying throughout, words are very powerful, right? So to the point of your body will react to them. So when you are using words to describe what you don't want, that is actually, if you pay attention and notice, you're actually creating images in your mind of what you don't want, right? And then what are the feelings that are being created in your body from that? When you're focusing on what you don't want, it has a tendency to present to you all of the opportunities for that experience. In other words, what you're focused on is what your RAS is looking for. So, and then by the way, not so much for other options or outcomes. So how does your body feel when images of what you don't want are crossing your mind? So the next natural step, right? It's like, okay, I get that. Let's go think about what I do want then, right? An example of that is think like a flashlight. Like think of like you see in the cartoon. I use this analogy a lot because it works really well. You're in a completely dark room, and the only thing you can see is what is in the cone of the light of the flashlight, right? You're shining, and you can only see where it's shining, and it doesn't really reflect onto anything else. Okay, that's the input for generating your ongoing experience. But pay attention here. There's a little trick. When you are focused on what you do want, as in I want this, or it will be great when I have, you are now looking in the right direction, right? You're like, okay, this is what I want. You're moving towards something. However, your focus is now on the lack or that gap in between your thingy or desire or whatever. And so you're now focused on the fact that you're you're what you want, but you're in between, right? So now that generates feelings, right? How does your body feel when you're actually experiencing the gap? And it's a subtle thing.
Yeah, that is subtle. Wow.
Right. You think, oh, I'm focused on what I want,
Right.
but here's the thing. So where do we go from here? I hear you all asking, so I'll answer. As we have done and are aware of doing, we sometimes envision in our mind what an experience is as it already happening, right? Like if you want to, you're talking about, let's just say generally you're going to go vacation, and we take a second and we go, oh yeah, and you see yourself at that place, and you see what you're seeing, and you're seeing it as if you're already there, which is a good thing, right? So how does your body feel when you envision that experience as already in place, as already happening, right? It's a whole different thing. And the body does respond to that, does react. So yeah, to be sure, these look like very subtle and maybe possibly unnecessary distinctions, but I encourage you to look back to your past experiences when you didn't want something, but it may have seemed to persist. Uh, whatever it is. Now, the experience might have changed, right? Like you change, like you're dating someone and they seem like, well, let's just be nice and say not the one. And then you find somebody else to date and you're like, yeah, still not the one. Well, what's the common denominator there, right? You. And so while your experience is changing, you're still having the same feelings in your body, right? You're still having the same experience, the same thoughts in your mind. Kind of the grass is greener syndrome, right? If only the old, if only something, this would change, or I had this, or whatever it was, right?
Yeah. Wow.
So what about when you decided you wanted something, but you were still focused on and feeling the lack of it? Again, the experience may have changed, but your overall feelings and mindset really didn't change, or maybe it felt better. You felt closer, but you weren't completely meeting or feeling what the desire you were wanting. So I know, because I've talked to many people, that you have had some experiences, and you may be aware of them or not. Sometimes people call them coincidence or serendipity, and that's a whole other podcast we've already done early on. You may have had some experiences that you have desired that you absolutely couldn't help but to envision as already in place, kind of like the vacation I just went over, right? There's something, let's say it's a new car, right? I'm into cars. Let's say it's a new car, right? And you see yourself driving this new car, or you see it in your, right? You're already seeing it. And I mean, it could be something simple. It could be something much less than a car. It doesn't, the universe doesn't care, right? It doesn't, there is no big or little in the universe. It's all just there, available to you when you're ready for it. I know you've had some experiences, because I've talked to lots of people, that where you have desired something and you absolutely couldn't help but to envision it as already in place, right? Already happening, kind of like the vacation experience I was talking about. So, and that actually created the feelings and mindset that felt best to you, right? You kind of feel it. Your whole body gets involved, and it's like, yeah, this is it. This is totally it. And I'm going to guess that those experiences, like the previous unwanted intended ones, also became your experience. And I like to think of it as working from the inside out. For instance, my experience, one of my experiences, right? Because it's happened many times, because that's how things work. So I was driving, I had a car, and I found this truck that I really thought was the thing. This is back a while ago when it was, the small trucks were a big thing. And so I decided I didn't want the same old truck that everybody else had. I wanted something different. And I was looking around, and I found a truck that I really liked. And I started focusing on it and just imagining it in my driveway. And then I found a place that had one for sale. There was actually a design difference between the previous year and the current year. And I liked the previous year design, so I wanted to get a used one. And yeah, it was like maybe within a week I found an advertisement where this truck was being sold. So I guess more up before that, I would actually, once I knew what the truck was, I actually drove my car, which was an automatic transmission, but I pretended like I was driving it as a truck, right? As a with a stick shift. And I always did that, and then I always pretended like I just envisioned myself in the car, that it was a truck instead. And here's the weird thing, right? I wanted to have this, like I said, this was back when little trucks were a big thing. No pun intended. I wanted the roll bar on there. I wanted the the brush guard in the front on there. I wanted the pipe bumper in the back, everything matching and all that stuff. But I wanted it with the original wheels, with the stock wheels, because I felt like if I got it and it already had custom wheels, it would be harder for me to change them because I already knew what kind of wheels I wanted to put on it. So I was literally customizing how I wanted to see and have the truck. And I went through this process for a couple of weeks maybe, and then I saw the advertisement for it, and it was exactly as I wanted. The roll bar in the back, the bumper, the front and back bumpers, everything, and it had the original wheels on it from the stock wheels. I was like, okay, this is it. So then I taped it on my my calendar about a a week or so out, and I went by and I saw it. I told the guy I was interested in it, and he's like, okay. And I finally ended up coming back a few days later, and I bought the truck. But it was through the process of living with it already, right? Already living with it.
Yeah. Wow. That's quite a story, David.
It was quite amazing to actually do it on purpose.
Yeah.
We do the same thing. We do the same thing without it being on purpose or intentional, but we still create the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of recap, David, the key to this process, like with everything that we talk about, actually is first awareness, and in this this process, the awareness of what we don't want, obviously that comes up first for most all of us, right?
Right.
Or what we don't have, or noticing what we are not.
Right.
So, and think about how that feels in your body. Most likely our bodies feel tense, anxious, maybe even like an ungrounding feeling. And then from there, often what happens is we move into what it is we would like to have, be, or do, and in this spot, even noticing how you're feeling and realizing there's still feelings of lack or not having, because you're stating something, well, it would be nice to have this, or I would like to be able to do this, or, so most likely you're getting similar feelings in your body as when you think of not having that, you don't want that, or, you don't have whatever it is.
Yeah.
So the final part of creating a life that we want is to fully embody the things that we want to have. And as David just shared in his story about the truck, just, fully in every single way possible, just acting as if it's already there, already happening. It's like a full body experience, and keeping strong to that. It really changes everything. And I'm going to share a story with you, much like, David just shared a story of how this has worked in his life. And same thing he said, this happens all the time to us, all of us. But it wasn't until, I really realized that I can really I can be purposeful and create what the life that I want. So the example I want to share is my coaching business. It all started with, I didn't like where I was in my career. I shared the story. I won't recap that, but I shared the story of how I was teaching, and I didn't like it anymore. And I didn't like, an office 9-to-5 job. And in my body, when I thought of this thing that I didn't like, I'd have feelings of dread. My body would feel anxious, tense. I literally, my cortisol levels were high, and I could tell because I was in that fight or flight response often. It was really kicked into high gear. I was often moody and cranky. Then I began to imagine what it was I wanted to do or be. And I really thought, I want to help people. I think being a life coach is something I want, because I didn't like where I was at. So I wanted to help others. So I noticed, when I was visualizing being a coach, Usually it was just for a brief thought. I'd be at my job that I really didn't like, and I'd be like, oh, if I could be a coach. But I wasn't fully, submersing myself into it. It was kind of fleeting. But I did notice my body would feel a little relaxed, a little bit calmer, a little less fight or flight kicking up. But then it wouldn't be long, and I'd say to myself, well, I'm not there yet. I don't know how I'm going to get there. That was the other thing. I know a lot of people go through that. They'll be like, I don't know how I'm going to get to that point, or I don't know how I'm going to get this thing, or whatever it is. So it goes back to that the feelings that we don't really like. So then what happened, the change and the shift is where this is how that all happened. I began to fully embody being a life coach and speaker. I became certified, and then I would think about having my own office or being on a laptop on a Zoom meeting with clients. Even while I was at my job, my quote unquote job, I'd think, oh, I'm sitting here with a client, on a meeting I'd be on for something else. This is a client. I'd vision myself flying in an airplane. My main office is at the end of an airport. So every time I see it, I still do this. I'm like, yep, there I am. I'm heading off to the next, speaking gig. But when I first started out, I'd see the plane and I'd close my eyes and I'd think about being on that plane heading to where it is I'm going to speak, and I'd envision all these beautiful places and just around the world. And I'm creating content. And then, I started developing these podcasts with David, and I was living in it as if it is, in full expectation and continued success as a life coach. And since I've started this process, opportunities just continue presenting themselves. It's just amazing what happened. It started with classes to assist starting up your own entrepreneurship and how to write a business plan, for a business. And then next thing I know, money showing up in ways that I hadn't expected and for amounts that I couldn't have imagined. And because I was just envisioning it, I was thinking of all the ways I was going to be speaking and helping others. And I never really left that. I just stayed in it. Then next thing I know, people show up that help me develop and create my website and my socials. It's just amazing. And with all these things falling into place, I feel a new confidence in my ability to reach out and help others in an official way. I look forward to continuing my future as a coach and speaker, helping others create the life of their dreams. So this is powerful stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah, and it's it's not like we're having to create a whole new process, right? We're not inventing the wheel or even reinventing the wheel. We are simply noticing and becoming aware of the process that we are already using, right? There really is no other process. And as we become aware of it, we can start practicing with intention. We can pay attention to what we feed the process, the belief and the expectation machine, right? I mean, think of it as cooking, where you're making something, and then you decide you want to adjust the flavor or create something a little different. So you're going through the same process, right? You're adding ingredients to a bowl or a pan, and then you just simply change something, right? You change an ingredient, you add an ingredient, whatever it is, right? You kind of change it up, either little or big, whatever you're inspired to do, so to speak. And you still go through the same process, right? You mix these ingredients together and then you cook them one way or another, which then creates something to eat for you. Except for now, it's a little different than the old recipe.
That's a great analogy, David. I love that. Yeah, that fits perfectly to our process that we're talking about. So basically, simply summarized, what you put in is what you get out.
Exactly. So,
yes.
And hey, as you said, Wendy, your website is now live. So everybody, we'd love for you to go check it out. If you have a minute, any comments and suggestions would be greatly appreciated. So
Oh,
her
absolutely.
website is The Wendy Marie, all one word, Marie, MARIE.com. And you can either email her using the show email or directly at wendy@thewendymarie.com.
Well, thank you, David, for that. And David has his website, davidtaryn.com. I do know he is in the process of revamping it. So it's under construction, as they say. Okay, so this brings us to our topic for next week. Are you really stuck?
All right, that's the show for this week. We hope you are feeling motivated, like you're ready to take on the world.
If you got value today, do us a huge favor, like and subscribe, and leave us a review. It helps us reach more people just like you.
You can find all our info in the show notes and connect with us at our website, thedavidandwendypodcast.com.
We'll see you next week. And remember, always be kind, loving, and compassionate to everyone you meet.